The ultimate forbidden book that cannot be banned. The past and present lives of JinPingMei. JinPingMei is the first of the 4 wonderful books of the Ming Dynasty. Ranked before Romance of the Three Kingdoms, Water Margin, and Journey to the West. Although the whole book is filled with some sexual descriptions and is often labeled as a pornographic book. What JinPingMei really wants to write about is the human world behind erotic desires, the good and evil of human nature, human relations, and all aspects of Chinese society in the 16th century. Why is JinPingMei a banned book? Not only because of the explicitness, but also because of the yellowness. As the saying goes, if you don't read JinPingMei, you don't know the wonders of the world. Mr. Mu Xin said that there are many Confucians in China who do not read the Analects of Confucius. In fact, there are also many trolls who do not read JinPingMei. Most people often change their expressions when mentioning JinPingMei, becoming shy and blushing, or looking vulgar and evil. There are many people who dare not look at it secretly, skip to look at it, or dare not admit it after reading it. What's more, they may have never read even a page of JinPingMei, or even seen the cover of JinPingMei. So they immediately concluded that it was a pornographic book, or obscene book. To be fair, isn't this a bit too self-assertive? JinPingMei is really not just a pornographic book. You have to know that the whole book has more than 800,000 words. In addition to 10,000 to 20,000 words of erotic descriptions, there are also 780,000 other words. Mao Zedong once commented on the Plum in the Golden Ping 5 times, saying that it was the ancestor of the dream of red mansions, and called it the history book of the Ming Dynasty. You must read it. Luxin especially praised JinPingMei. The author's understanding of the world is extremely insightful. He talks about it at the same time, and there is nothing better than it. It means that JinPingMei is not a pornographic novel, but a novel about worldly affairs, and there is no one better than him. At that time, Lu Xun and scholars Zheng Zhenduo, Wu Han, and others often discussed JinPingMei. Zheng Zhenduo believes that JinPingMei is a first-class novel. Liu Xinwu commented on JinPingMei with more than 100,000 words. JinPingMei with the true and false, good and evil, right and wrong in human nature very vividly and realistically. Watching Liu Xinwu's explanation of JinPingMei carefully is like looking in the mirror, including life, delicacies and pastries, fragrant tea and wine, lantern, festival lights, house prices and prices, observing the world, interpersonal communication, business experience, watching battles, how Ximen King skillfully maneuvers in officialdom and shopping malls, how the wives and concubines in the Ximen mansion compete for favor and fight openly and covertly. See human nature, greed, shrewdness, warmth, indulgence, pain, etc. Therefore, Liu Xinwu said in the book, don't think that JinPingMei is just a book about ordinary family life. It also writes about society. It writes about the inside of the house. It also writes about outside the house. It writes about the market, and it writes about many tragedies in the world. It also writes about the shared prosperity of the world. Liu Xinwu's interpretation of JinPingMei was praised by the famous writer Wang Meng. JinPingMei is a very important book and has great significance in the history of Chinese literature. Liu Xinwu's ability to explain, convey, and interpret JinPingMei is a great achievement. It's very meaningful. Writers Zhang Ailing, Ji Fei, and others praised it as a wonderful book through the ages, said, JinPingMei is the source of all my inspiration. Gao Zhaosong said in Zhao Shuo, without JinPingMei, there would be no Dream of Red Mansions. It is not an exaggeration to say that Dream of Red Mansions was influenced by and inherited from JinPingMei. There are 2 points in summary. The transmission of the thoughts of the first Buddha, and the most detailed portrayal of the human heart of the second world. A dream of red mansions has always conveyed that any prosperity is a dream, and everything is empty and impermanent. It highly praises Buddhism and criticizes Confucianism, and pursues the freedom of life. The poems in JinPingMei directly write this meaning to you. A dream of red mansions, each character is portrayed with incomparable realism and meticulousness, down to every word and hair. And the fate and consequences of each character are written down. Every character in The Plum and the Golden Ping also has a beginning and an end, and suffers what he deserves in the end. Of course, Dream of Red Mansions is still the first. Dream of Red Mansions is better than JinPingMei because of JinPingMei, but Dream of Red Mansions is too high, and JinPingMei cannot compare with it. JinPingMei is a novel about worldly affairs, with a strong market atmosphere, and is very down to earth. What is JinPingMei about? JinPingMei mainly tells the story of the rise and fall of the family of Ximen King, a medicine merchant in Qin County, Andong, and the women in his company. The beginning of the story is adapted from the chapter of Water Margin, in which Pan Jinlian and Ximen King killed Wu Dalong. It's just that in Water Margin, Wu Song beheaded Ximen King, Pan Jinlian, and Wang Po. But in JinPingMei, it was changed to Wu Song failing to avenge his brother for the first time, and killing an unlucky villain, and then gone to the end of the world. It was not until Ximen King died unexpectedly that Wu Erlong came back and killed Pan Jinlian and Wang Po again when he was amnestied. During this period, Ximen King experienced various prosperity, including prosperity in family, wealth, and official career. I watched Ximen King grow up as a little orphan drug dealer, marrying wives one by one, becoming rich step by step, enjoying all the wealth and honor in the world, and then ruining himself and his family step by step. As the saying goes, I saw him building a tall building, watching him entertain guests, and seeing his building collapse. Let's talk about the worldly desire in The Plum in the Golden Vase. The biggest difference between JinPingMei and Dream of Red Mansions is that Dream of Red Mansions writes a completely utopian, dreamy, superior, clean, and beautiful world, where all the protagonists are carefree and have a little fireworks. None of them were dirty at all. They recited poems and admired the moon. They were elegant from head to toe. They never had to think about making money, and they never had to be vulgar. In the end, when they had to be vulgar, the author turned them all into, no matter how hard they die, they don't want to turn into dirty old mothers. JinPingMei is exactly the opposite. From the beginning, it was written from the noisy and dirty bottom of society, and it is completely true to its true appearance. They say the most vulgar swear words, they engage in the most despicable transactions for survival and desire. They only do it to make money, and they only do it for temporary pleasure. But the truth, the complete truth, the naked truth. JinPingMei describes all the world conditions of the Ming dynasty. From the beggar Hanako under the bridge to the prime minister of the capital, the living conditions of all walks of life, the faces of the characters, interpersonal interactions, the world's human hearts, and all kinds of complete styles. Lust, desire for money, and desire for power are present throughout The Plum in the Golden Ping. Let me first talk about the duality and completeness of several characters in the book. Ximen King is such a bad person, but he also has a good side. His enthusiasm and generosity towards his friends, servants, and people who come to him for help make people sincerely admire him. He is rich but not stingy. Not only does he help others, he is also very considerate and does not make the people he helps feel uncomfortable. He is sincerely frank and polite in his dealings with others. Furthermore, his keen and outstanding entrepreneurial ability cannot but be admired and worth learning from. Sister-in-law Zhu is such a mercenary person. In the end, when Pang Chunmai asked her to sell Sun Zuimio to a brothel, she still did not do it. Her words were really touching. He must have ordered me to send you to a prostitute. Door. When I raise a son or a daughter, I also need heavenly principles. It means that I am also a person with children, and I cannot do all the bad things without any conscience. One sentence describes the dilemma of a little person who loves money but is a parent, but in the end she chose her conscience. Have you ever? I was very moved at once. Pan Chunmai, Pan Jinlian's maid. Pan Jinlian wanted to be strong all his life, offending everyone, but being kind to Pan Chunmai. When everyone said bad things about Pan Jinlian, and after Pan Jinlian was sold to Ximen King's house, Pan Chunmai has been trying her best to save Pan Jinlian. Even if Pan Jinlian dies, Pan Chunmai will try her best to bury Pan Jinlian and miss her from the bottom of her heart again and again. This is also a value concept. No matter how bad a person is, everyone will scold him, but if he treats you well, you should be grateful to him, and you should not say bad things about him. As a human being, you must know how to write the word gratitude. Earl Ying tried every means to coax Ximen King and gain numerous benefits from Ximen King. However, after Ximen King's death, he turned around and started to defect to the next rich and powerful person. His unjust and shameless villainy was simply disgusting. But if you think about it from Earl Ying's perspective, does he have any difficulties? There are also some. A wealthy family like Ximen King would be extremely happy to have a baby, and they would be so happy to have a baby. But what about Earl Ying? He gave birth to a son, but he was just worried. The whole family didn't have enough to eat, so how could he have money to feed the child? He can only act like a clown around Ximen King, groveling and taking advantage. Isn't he living a miserable life? It's frustrating, but it has to be like this. Don't you particularly hate him anymore? In fact, he is quite pitiful. Chen Jingji was born into a wealthy family, but his home was confiscated and he took refuge in Ximenking. Instead, he inherited Ximenking's family property. Then what? A good hand of cards was played badly, and an incident broke out with Pan Jinlian, and they were both kicked out of the house. She was reduced to begging for food on the street and being treated as a man's favorite by men. Is there anything touching or pitiable about a person who can be said to be worthless and a scumbag? There are also some. How old do you think Chen Jingji is? He was only 24 when he died. Originally a rich second generation who had no worries about food and clothing, his family suddenly disappeared when he was a teenager. And then he lived with his father-in-law, and he was a father-in-law with such a character as Ximen King. No one taught him how to be a human being. No one told him what was right or wrong, what he knew, what he could learn. So rather than saying that he is bad, it is better to say that he is too young and ignorant. He is just such a person, and there is another point that makes people quite moved. It was his sincerity and persistence towards Pan Jinlian. Pan Jinlian was driven out of the house by Wu Yuiniang to sell her. The mother-in-law asked for 100 taels. Chen Jingji tried his best to find the money immediately. He had an idea in his mind that he wanted to marry Pan Jinlian. In fact, he is a bit like Jia Rui and Wang Zifeng in A Dream of Red Mansions. He is very silly and naive. Like A Dream of Red Mansions, everyone and everything in JinPingMei, world affairs, desires, and knowledge. Let's talk about the business in JinPingMei. There is a very important direction in JinPingMei, which is business. The dynasty described in the book is an era where all people are businessmen and worship money. Everyone is doing business, and everyone is trying their best to make money. Obviously, in this regard, Ximen King is the best among them. Ximen King was rich and once became the richest man in Shandong. He was doing business all the time, running a drugstore, a cloth shop, a pawn shop, selling grain and goods, etc. He did everything, and he succeeded in whatever he did. His business ability was simply astonishing. Ximen King has a very advanced and modern view on money. Money is money when it flows and generates money. Keeping money at home will not only be detrimental to making money, but will also lead to sin. Simon King is a true business genius. Regardless of his character and methods, he became prosperous step by step, entirely relying on his own business. First of all, he is an orphan. He has no father or mother. When he appears, he has no one to rely on. At first, his parents left him an herbal medicine shop, and their family was relatively well off. As a son of a wealthy family in his 20s, not only did he not lose his family fortune, but he managed it better and better, and grew bigger and bigger, which is really rare. Simon King indulged in sex all his life, drinking and eating every day. But no matter in the courtyard or in the wine shop, once he got involved in business, every penny came and went. Which goods made money and which goods should not be taken, who to partner with, and when to buy. No one knows better than him when it comes to buying and selling. Until his death, when he could not even move, he still made every business development plan. After his death, every tale of silver debt and inheritance issues clear and clear, without leaking. Don't look at the account books, it's all oral. There is something really extraordinary about it. Speaking of love in JinPingMei, you probably want to say, oh God, is there still love in JinPingMei? That's ridiculous. There really is. Maybe there are no absolute good guys and absolutely bad guys in this world, just like the world is not black and white. Let's talk about Simon King and Li Pinger first. Some people say that Simon King married Li Pinger because he was greedy for Li Pinger's ex-husband's wasted wealth. This is not entirely true. Simon King loves money as much as his life, and makes money without money. However, when he first had an affair with Li Pinger, Simon King didn't know the amount of property of the Hua family. Later, since Simon King had married Li Pinger and received money from the Hua family, he was still very kind to Li Pinger. Although compared to Simon King's other wives, Li Pinger is cowardly and has no independent opinions, dooming the subsequent characters to tragedy. But for a man who has a desire to conquer, such a woman who is gentle, few words, and truly sensible and caring is the best choice. It makes people feel affectionate. Unlike the main wife Wu Yuenian, who always had an educational face, unlike Pan Jinlian, who had sharp teeth, a sharp mouth, a cruel heart, and was unreasonable and unreasonable. Later, Li Pinger gave birth to Simon King's first son, and Simon King already liked and was grateful to her. Li Pinger is indeed kind-hearted and is always kind to everyone she gets along with. The servants didn't dare to tell Simon King directly, so she just asked Li Pinger for help, and she went to help. She never minded when the servants took advantage of her money. Before Li Pinger died, she returned. The various maids and women around them divided money and things for their consideration. Therefore, except for Pan Jinlian, who is jealous of Li Pinger, basically no one in the book dislikes her. Li Pinger loves Simon King. Li Pinger loves Simon King very simply, and thinks about Simon King sincerely. Li Pinger's family is rich, unlike other women who always care about Simon King. Moreover, Pinger has a good character, and does not fight or rob. Even if Simon King loses her for a moment, she will not cause trouble to Simon King even when she is wrong. Even when she is about to die, she is still thinking about Simon King, and urging Simon King not to because she delayed going to the yamen to clock in. She told him what he needed to pay attention to, and she didn't want Simon King to see her ugly appearance, because she was afraid that the smell of salt all over her body would suffocate him. Simon King also really loves her. How much love? In addition to food and clothing, tone and attitude, and often going to Li Pinger's place to rest. Let's look at Simon King's performance when Li Pinger was ill and after his death. The book describes dozens of times that a grown man, a business wizard, and an official who was not afraid of anything, and never knew sorrow, shed tears, cried loudly, and was heartbroken for Li Pinger. On the night when Li Pinger was about to die, Taoist Pan warned him not to go into Li Pinger's room. Otherwise he would be in trouble. But Simon King still refused to listen and entered Li Pinger's room. Li Pinger heard that he was not going to die soon and comforted Simon King. After Simon King heard this, she exchanged tears and cried loudly, "My sister, please keep your mind straight and don't pay attention to him. I really expected to be with you for a few days, but who knew you abandoned me again? I'd rather have Simon King's eyes closed than to have his heart cut open." Reading these places, everyone is moved. I never imagined that a person like Simon King, who bullies men and dominates women and does all kinds of bad things, would still be like this, crying for one person and willing to die for one person. You know, even if Simon King's only son died in infancy, he would be sad for a while and then continue to live and drink. Apart from life and death, there is no big deal. It is probably only in the face of death that we often see the deepest affection. Throughout the book, this is the only person Simon King is willing to die for. So what is the main theme of JinPingMei? JinPingMei mainly tells people two things. First, unparalleled fame is nothing more than a dream. Astonishing wealth is inevitably impermanent. You come and go naked all your life. You struggle all your life, but in the end, you can't catch anything. It's just a dream. Instead of suffering about the past and worrying about the future, it is better to live in the present. Second, the conservation of cause and effect means that good and evil will have their consequences in the end. Good causes lead to good results. Evil causes lead to bad results. It is self-inflicted, self-sowing, and self-feeding. There are two things you must do to be a human being: study and accumulate virtue. In 3 words and 2 shots, he said, "I don't lust after other people's wives, and people don't lust after my wife." This is a perfect way to describe Simon King's private life. Simon King got other people's wives by hook or by crook, and in the end, his own wife also left. Get separated. Simon King used all means to make money and gain power. When he finally died, his family fortune was gradually dissipated, and his black hat would soon be worn by his descendants. Simon King killed countless people in his life, but what happened to him in the end? His son died young. Death is not immediate, it drags on the pain for a long time. Except for Simon King, everyone in the book suffered the ending they deserved. In the end, a long life, a beheaded one. Those who owe debts must repay their debts, and those who owe their lives must repay their lives. There are gods in your head, and you will have to pay them back. It's all cause and effect. There is a saying in JinPingMei, everything in this world that is forbidden has benefits, but I don't want to share them with you. Everything that is promoted has pitfalls that you need to fill. Don't follow the crowd too much in everything. People with independent personalities have the habit of thinking against the grain. To sum up, let's summarize. Plum in the Golden Vase is China's first full-length vernacular worldly affairs chapter novel independently created by a literati. It is famous as a forbidden book and a wonderful book. The book was written between the Longqing and Wanli years of the Ming dynasty, and the author signed it Lanling Zhaoxiaxing. The novel describes in detail the daily life of ordinary people in ancient times and depicts the social reality at that time. It has been studied a lot. Lu Xun believed that it pays attention to vulgarity and is a novel about worldly affairs, which is very different from the general traditional classic books that pay attention to elegance. The Plum in the Golden Lotus borrows a story about Wu Song's murder of his sister-in-law in water margin as an introduction. It tells that Pan Jinlian was not killed by Wu Song and married Simon King as his concubine. From then on, it switches to the main body of the novel and tells the story of Simon King and his family's sinful life. The description reflects the life of the people at that time, with people from the market as the main characters, through multifaceted and multi-level descriptions. The dark and decadent feudal society of the Ming dynasty is vividly exposed. At this point, JinPingMei is far better than Water Margin. It has profound cognitive value. It was later made into many film and television works of the same name. The title of JinPingMei is taken from the names of Simon King's 3 concubines and maids Pan Jinlian, Li Pinger, and Pang Chunmai in the novel. Some people think that it actually has a deeper meaning. That is, gold represents money, bottle represents wine, and plum represents female sex. JinPingMei is like writing a diary. Its story unfolds year by month. The opening line of JinPingMei says, "Let's talk about the Zhang period of Emperor Hezong of the Song dynasty." This indicates that JinPingMei is written about the Zhenghe period in the late northern Song dynasty. It just so happens that the story of Pan Jinlian and Simon King's affair, written in the first 6 chapters of JinPingMei, is from Water Margin, plagiarized from The Water Margin. Readers already know that the story of Water Margin took place during the Zhang period, at the end of the northern Song dynasty. So they are even more convinced that the plum in the golden ping is really a story about the Zhang period at the end of the northern Song dynasty. In addition, JinPingMei also uses a large number of proverbs, lyrics, idioms, dialects, and opera elements. Many of them are very subtle, and it also contains a lot of miscellaneous knowledge. The book promotes the view of truth and delusion, and cause and effect. Retribution, thus, JinPingMei became an important turning point in Chinese ideological and literary concepts, and influenced the creation of A Dream of Red Mansions in later generations. The reason why the literary value of JinPingMei is so great is because only people who are not superficial and have rich experience can see different things.
Alright, this story has come to an end. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. Thank you.